Hello guys and welcome back to Planet 40k Tyranids. We've got another unit review today, of course. This time we're going to be looking at one of the battle line units from the Tyranid Index. It's going to be none other than the Gargoyles. So we're going to go through their date card and of course give a Planet 40k rating at the end of the video. Guys, before we do get into this, but if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please do so now down below. It massively helps the channel and we are trying to grow. But let's get into today's video. The Gargoyles, the rear side of the card, and the points as well. 75 points for 10, 150 points for 20. And you can have obviously 10 or 20. And every model is equipped with the Flesh Borers and the Blinding Venom. Now they used to actually be 8 points ahead, so they're cheaper. Only just 5 points for the 10 is cheaper. 5 points for 10 is cheaper, and 10 points for 20. So yeah, they're only just cheaper really. They are infantry. They are battle line. They've got fly. So infantry and fly. Quite rare really, because they can be flying through ruins, if that makes sense. It's still, fly's still not that great, but it is helpful. They've got the endless multitude keyword as well, so that's going to relate to a stratagem which we'll mention later on. But let's flip the card over. Let's talk about first of all, the stats. I don't believe any of the stats have changed that were from 9th edition. 12-inch movement, toughness 3, a 6+ armor save, 1 wound, so quite squishy overall. Leadership 8+, and objective control is 2, which is pretty nice. It's pretty decent in fact. Now let's go over the ranged weapons before we get onto the good stuff, because I believe the abilities is where it's at with this date card. So the Flesh Borers have the assault keyword, 18-inch range, attacks 1, ballistic skill 4+, strength 5, no AP, 1 damage. So it used to be -1 AP. It's lost a bit of AP as standard really for 10th edition. A pretty decent weapon. There's a lot of strength 5 there, especially if you've got a 20-man gargoyle unit. So a 20 strength 5 shots with the assault keyword on top of that. That's pretty decent. Now these guys aren't really there to do damage, but I just wanted to throw this in there. It is a decent weapon. The melee weapon, Blinding Venom, 1 attack each, weapon skill 4+, strength 3, no AP, 1 damage. They're not meant to really be in engagement range. It's not where I would want them. They can do a job to try and steal an objective, but the likelihood is they're going to get hit back and you're going to lose some models. Yes, again, you've got that stratagem, which we'll go over in a moment, but realistically, you don't need to be charging with them. But what I do like about this data card is the right side, the ability side. So there's a few things here, there's a few neat tricks to talk about. First of all, Deep Strike. That is new for the Gargoyles. That makes them very effective. Turn 2, turn 3, they can be popping in. Maybe it's to score secondaries. Well, it will be to score secondaries, potentially primaries too. They've got the faction keyword, faction ability of Synapse. If they're within Synapse range, the likelihood is they won't be unless you've got something front and center. Maybe it's a Hive Tyrant right up the board. But realistically, they're coming in and doing stuff solo. But this is the main thing here. It's the Winged Swarm. So in the shooting phase, after this unit is shot, if it's not within engagement range of enemy units, it can make a normal move up to 6 inches. And if it does until the end of the turn, the unit is not eligible to declare a charge. So that is amazing for a few reasons. First of all, you're going to be not only moving 12 inches, but you're going to be advancing because you've got the assault keyword related to your ranged weapon, which is the Flesh Borer. So you're moving 12, you're doing an advanced move, which is D6, you're then firing, you're then moving another 6 inches on top of that. You don't want to get into a charge because you don't want to be doing that anyway. That's a lot of distance to be covering. Again, that's going to relate to primaries, it's going to relate to secondaries. These guys have got OC2, don't forget. But the neat trick here, which a lot of people seem to have not quite grasped yet, is combining this with Deep Strike. Now, Deep Strike, as you know, is more than 9 inches away from enemy models kind of thing. So once they come in, you're virtually 9 inches away. You can then shoot, because you've got it doesn't matter about the assault keyword, you're going to shoot. And then as soon as you've shot, you can move 6 inches. So therefore you can move even closer to your enemy units, even though you've just deep struck in. If they're on an objective, you could literally get, if you do the 9 inch minus the 6 inches, you're going to be within just about 3 inches away from deep strike, that is, from an enemy unit. That's going to be extremely hard to screen off. Again, they've got fly as well. I mean, that might not come into play too much, especially on a large 20-man unit. But they can literally come in, shoot, move closer to gain an objective, OC2 with all the models. What's your opponent going to do about that? They're going to have to do a double screen or something to get you to not be able to get there. But yeah, that's a neat trick. Deep strike, shoot, then move even closer, steal the objective. I really like that. As for the battlefield role for the Gargoyles, well, we kind of spoke about it briefly, but we'll go into a little bit more detail. It's mainly for the secondaries. I mean, I've also put the primaries at the end of this, but we mainly want to talk about the secondaries here. There's some that I've listed here. We've got engage on all fronts to get into the quarters. We've got behind enemy lines to get into your opponent's deployment zone. Secure no man's land if they want to take an objective there. Investigate signal to do the action in the... Where do you want it? That's in the corners, isn't it? You've got cleanse to be doing an action again. Area denial. Deploy teleport home, which is another action. And of course the primary scoring as well. So they can be doing a lot of work with your objectives, primaries and secondaries. Now, we did a review recently on the Raveners, and they had a similar, well, not really similar, but they had another mechanic where they're popping in and out of their tunneling ability, and that was quite useful for this kind of stuff. So they're kind of competing in a way, but these guys have also got that decent range attack of strength 5 as well. So what can we combine with the Gargoyles in terms of characters? Well, there is one character that can actually lead Gargoyles, which is the Winged Tyranid Prime. It's a new model for 10th edition, and there's a few reasons to take him. You don't necessarily need him, but he can help with the damage department. He can give you sustained hits 1 to your unit. So if you've got a 20-man unit with 20 shots, maybe 3, maybe 4 of those will be sustained hits, so you're just going to get extra shots there. He's also going to be aiding with Synapse, because he actually has the Synapse keyword, so they'll always be within Synapse range. But to be honest with you, I wouldn't bother with him. You could use the Hyper Adaptation Swarming Instincts to get sustained hits 1 against infantry anyway. And even if you don't have that unlocked because you've selected a different one, there is a stratagem to change it out or even use one for that particular phase. So I personally wouldn't bother. But something I would bother with, which is the stratagem Endless Swarm. Only 1 command point and up to 2 Endless Multitude units from your army within Synapse range, or one that isn't within Synapse range gets to get D3 plus 3 models back just for 1 command point. I think that's pretty good. An average of what? Right, well, between 4 and 6 models are coming back every time you use this in your command phase. So yeah, that is the stratagem that I would use for Gargoyles. Now, as for the pros and cons for the Gargoyle, we'll start with the pros. They're very fast, plus they've got the deep strike and they're flying infantry on top of that. When you're combining all those things together, it is a real decent unit to be getting onto things such as secondaries. They've got the assault weapons as well, which makes that even better because you can advance and you're still firing as normal. It's got a decent amount of strength 5 shots on top of that. And strength 5 is okay in this edition. I mean, it's an anti-infantry weapon, of course. You're not going to be really firing it against heavy armour. But if you've got a lot of shots, even going up against Terminators, they are going to roll some 1s eventually to fail their saves. They're great, as mentioned, for bagging secondary objectives. They're also battle line, so you could actually have 6 of these instead of having 3, because battle line units you can have up to 6. So you could have 6 units of 10 Gargoyles if you really wanted to. Not saying that's the best, most competitive use of them, but you could if you really wanted to. They've got object control too, which is very nice, especially if you do the deep strike, then you shoot, and then you move 6 inches, get onto an objective. OC 2 on every model, you're taking those objectives quite easily. They've got the Endless Swarm stratagem, as we mentioned, D3 plus 3 models return for just 1 command point, that's cheap. And the option of being led with that Winged Tyranid Prime if you wanted to. As for the cons, they're likely out of Synapse, unless you're bringing that character, of course. Doesn't mean it's not the biggest deal, but some people do like to play within Synapse. They're not that great in melee. In fact, they're pretty crap in melee, to be honest, but I wouldn't bother using them in melee. That's not where they're supposed to be. They're meant to shoot or get onto objectives. They may end up in melee, but ideally you don't want them there. They're a squishy unit with only toughness 3, 6 plus armor, 1 wound apiece, so they will go down fast. And they're competing with Bioballs and the Spore Mines, which they can do the same sort of job. You can also throw in their Hormagaunts, as well as the Raveners as well, potentially. They could do similar roles. So it is kind of what do you fancy, really. But for the Planet 40k rated today, for the Gargoyles, I'm going to go with a 5-star rate for these guys. I think for how cheap they are, and for what they can do, that move, shoot, move ability I think is really good. And with with the assault keyword as well, I think it's just really, really strong, especially from deep strike. So guys, what's your thoughts? Let me know down in the comments below. What are you giving the Gargoyles and why? Don't forget the why part. I want to know what you're thinking in terms of the Gargoyles and your star rating. But other than that, all I've got left to say to you is thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.